Hey, I'm Dr. Keith Johnson. I want to welcome you to the Dangerous Men Show, where we empower men to be supremely confident in the four main domains of life: spiritually, relationally, physically, and financially. I'm so excited that you're here today as we celebrate once again the life of Charlie Kirk. Wow. What an amazing, amazing man this guy was, who would dare to go where nobody else, and the key word is nobody else. He went directly to the college campuses and preached the gospel of Jesus Christ. And to that, I salute this man. I honor this man. Where others were afraid to go, where others ignored it, where others wouldn't do it, this guy chose to obey what God put on his heart way back when he was a young man. And he followed that mission, and he achieved his mission of touching thousands and thousands and thousands of young people's lives. And today we see a huge revival breaking out all across all of these major college campuses. And it's amazing. Thousands of young people are giving their hearts to God. They're coming back to the Lord. They're surrendering their lives. God's touching them in powerful ways. They're reading their Bibles. They're getting baptized in water. I mean, it's just amazing what's going on. And I am so really, excited about today, because today President Trump is going to honor him today with the Medal of Freedom, which is the highest award that any person could receive. And so I wanted to just bring this to you live here today. I know there's some people here in the United States, you can get it on your regular TV, but I wanted to bring it to you live, do some commentary on it. And also there's some of you who are international that maybe you won't see this event. And so I wanted to make sure, just like with Charlie Kirk memorial service, we just pumped it out on all of our channels live. We're doing the best that we can to get the message out there and to honor what we believe is one of God's amazing men that he raised up to be a model, to really be a forerunner, can we say, of really what God wants to do in the earth today. And I've been saying it. I've been preaching it. I've been teaching it. And it goes way back to where we started talking about God wanting us to get out of the four walls of the church. God wanting us to go and to invade the seven spheres of society. Started way back with Bill Bright and Cunningham talking about the fact that we've got to bring the gospel to the entire culture, that we can't wait for the culture to come to us. We can't sit in our churches and twiddle our fingers and just say, hey, let's just pray that people will come to our church. Let's just pray that revival will come inside our four walls. And let's just pray, praise, and wait. No. The Bible says for us to go into all the world, to go into all the spheres of society with the gospel, with the good news, to go out into the darkness and be the light, not be afraid of it, not be passive, not be worried that if we go into the dark world that somehow their bad influence will get on us. but realizing that we are insulated. Jesus never taught isolation and hiding and timidity and being fearful of the world. He never taught us isolation. He taught us insulation, that we could be in the world, but not of it, so that they can see the model and look at us and say, hey, we want to be like them. Isn't that what it's all about, guys? And we've been talking about this. I've been preaching on this. I wrote books on it. 3 different books I mentioned this concept of the church going to the world, whether that's in government, which Charlie did, whether that's in business, whether that's in education, which Charlie did, whether that's taking it to the family and educating and training families in the home, whether that's going to the media, which he did, whether that's going into the arts. That God wants his people to be equipped and trained. That's what the scripture says, that God gave us apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. For what? For the equipping of the saints. For what? For the work of the ministry. And unfortunately, we've got this all backwards. Unfortunately, we think that the pastors are supposed to do everything, that the guy who preaches from the pulpit is supposed to do everything. And bless their hearts, because we think this way, most pastors are burned out, wore out. And a lot of them, sadly, it's not a funny matter really, but sadly, many of them have given up, have quit. They burned out and wiped out because there's unrealistic expectations on them for them to do all the ministry, when God never planned it that way. God wanted his believers to actually come to church and to see themselves as ministers. Because the Bible says we all have a ministry of reconciliation. All of us. The problem is you don't see yourself as a minister because you don't have, a white collar around your neck. You don't have a big cross hanging down, or you're not wearing priestly robes. You don't see yourself as a priest. But that's exactly what you are. When you came to Christ, God made you a king and he made you a priest, both. For where? For the marketplace. And the job of the local pastor is to equip you. It's to train you. It's to raise you up, to learn how to be an effective minister in that marketplace. And like we've been teaching and training for a long time, that the number one thing we've got to train you is to be successful in these other areas out in the real world. Because in the real world, your pulpit is success. That we've got to help you become successful, because if you're not successful at whatever you do, you can't have influence with these people. They're not going to listen. The people who don't know God's not going to listen to the person who is losing in the marketplace. They've got to see successful people. And when they see success, they see that what you are doing, how you are modeling success, they see that, and then that's where things start to happen. And so that's what we've been talking about. That's this whole concept of equipping you to go out, equipping you. That God never wanted to put the burden of the Great Commission, the burden of what God wanted to see happen in the entire world. He never wanted to put it on just a small handful of pastors and leaders. God wanted that burden to be on all of us, that everybody was his minister. Everybody was his leader. And so this is the message we've been talking about. And that's why I'm so passionate right now, because we have this guy. We have this guy named Charlie Kirk who did never claim to be a pastor, never claimed to be apostle, prophet, evangelist. We labeled him some of those names, but he just claimed to be a regular guy who saw the problem, who saw that our school systems are really whacked out and teaching our kids really anti-Bible, anti-God, and all this crazy stuff. And he just said, I'm not going to just sit here and complain about it, because if we don't reach these people, this is the next generation. And if we don't reach them, America's doomed. That's what he believed. And he set his course. He went out there, and man, the more I read about this guy, I mean, his passion, his work ethic. I mean, the guy worked ruthlessly to build Turning Point to what it was. He made the connections. He was relational. He made the connections that he needed to. His wife honored him. His kids honored him. Good father, good husband. I mean, his pastor honored him. So I just wanted to share some of these things. It was really interesting. The day after Charlie died, I went down to my dock by the water, and one of the chairs I always sat in, my wife sits on this side, I sat on this side, and there was this seed sitting right on my chair. I'm like, it's crazy. Then I went over to the sofa that she sits on, lifted up a towel that was on there because I was going to take it inside, and there's another seed sitting on the same sofa that she sits on, 2 seats. And then, of course, we know the scripture that says that unless a seed dies, there's no multiplication. And so, like a lot of people are saying about talking about seeds and the death of the martyrs, that it always caused an acceleration of the message. And so I just believe, I mean, I have no idea how these seeds got there. Some of you can post down below how you think it got there. I've had people tell me all kinds of things. I can't see a squirrel putting it there. I mean, I don't even know what kind of seed this is. I don't even know. Can't see a squirrel put it there. I mean, that's food. I can't see a bird. I mean, that's a pretty big seed for a bird to carry around. And why was there 2? And why in the world were they on my seat where I sat, where my wife sits? How did that happen? I don't know. One guy said maybe it was an angel. Maybe the angels just came and boop, boop. I don't know. It's very interesting. But here's what I do know. I do know this, that God's placed a message on my heart to help men. To help men get their confidence back. So many men out there are living way below their potential. So many men out there, they lack affirmation. They lack purpose. They lack any real self-belief in themselves. And so many guys are suffering and hurting right now. And so I just believe that God, according to Joel 3, verse 9, the Bible says to wake up the mighty men. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Oh, hold on a second. I got to get my iPad charged up here. Like I said, I just believe that I'm supposed to be waking up. Joel 3, verse 9 said, proclaim among the nations, it's time for war. Wake up the mighty men. Wow. And I just accepted my call when I read that scripture. So I really felt God saying to me, Keith, it starts with the men. Go wake up the men. And that's what I'm doing. So if you want to be a part of what we're doing, I want you to post down below. I want you to post down below. Right now, I'm mentoring men. I'm helping men get their confidence back, build their confidence back, and to become that success in the marketplace, out in the real world, whatever sphere you're assigned to. That's my assignment in this season, is to help you become a success in the marketplace, help you become a success in your own home, to win your wife back, your kids back, and financially, to begin to dominate money instead of allowing debt and money to dominate and destroy you. You're called to dominate it, not it to rule and reign over you. All right? So get your spiritual fire back, get your relationship back in alignment with God, then get your money right and your body right. They're all interconnected together. And when we dominate in all four of those areas, we start succeeding and glorifying God in the earth. Let's get back to that. Let's get back to the show here. Let me pull that back up. There we go. We're back on. I had this on for so long that it went out on me, but now it's charging up. So here comes looks like they are coming on stage now. Let's get back here. Let's get rolling with this. Well, let's go into the meeting now. Hope you enjoyed my little talk here.
The ceremony for the Presidential Medal of Freedom for Charlie Kirk. You can see people getting to take their seats. When those speakers begin, we will take you there live. Preston, I do want to talk about what you found when you got on the campus. You talked about what you saw inside the classroom. You've seen a boom now in Turning Point USA involvement. What has been the reaction? I've seen stories from across the country on different college campuses from both the student body and the administration. So what's been the reaction to this growth in Turning Point?
Yeah, Will, I think sometimes it's hard to judge the temperature of a generation based on their actions. I'm a fallible man, you're a fallible man, but what's a better gauge is their reactions. And frankly, I think the reaction has been off. I think that, especially at the administrative level as well, not only from students and people making jokes and taking this thing extremely lightly, but from the administration, we as students look to the administration for clarity in situations like this, for moral clarity, more importantly. And frankly, it's been embarrassing. On one hand, it's sad, but on the other hand, it's been dangerous and reckless in a sense. And embarrassing and sad because given that, my university, for example, and a lot of universities, they make quick and prompt statements about George Floyd in 2020 and about Gaza and about January 6th, but yet did not make quick and prompt statements about Charlie Kirk. So that's the embarrassing and sad part. But the dangerous part is this. The dangerous part is that you have, you know, sorry, lost my train of thought.
Right.
No, you had the dangerous part, I think, is that students aren't able to actually see what's really going on. And I think that, sorry, lost my train of
Sorry,
thought.
as your thoughts. First of all, you're doing incredible. Okay? You're a fresh. Are you a freshman?
No, I'm actually a senior.
You're actually senior. And 4 years in the military, so premature. But your first time on national TV, and I appreciate you doing incredible. But as you're talking as well, the audience is seeing pictures here from the Rose Garden. We just saw Vice President J.D. Vance. He is now in the audience talking there at the front. We're waiting for President and Eric Kirk to come out there and join them in the audience. You can see there's a large crowd. This had to be moved into the Rose Garden because the crowd was so large. Originally, it was scheduled to be indoor at the White House, but you can see there the size of the crowd gathering in the Rose Garden.
Sorry, but what I was actually going to say is, the dangerous part, I think, is when, as an administration, you don't actually call these things out and snuff these things out, you leave the room, okay?
In fact, what you were telling me is that the stories I've seen, and to be blunt, some schools right here close to where we broadcast today, will not be TC or SMU, is that you sometimes see bureaucratic hurdles that are put up to finding a Turning Point chapter meeting room. And it's not equal, is what you told me. If you want to see a protest in support of Gaza, there'll be hundreds out there permitted.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it, I've experienced it. I think that sometimes at the administrative level, they do actually tend to favor people that fall on more of the left side than the right. And we've experienced it, as a chapter, like you mentioned, booking rooms and securing spaces. But that's the administrative thing, the dangerous part. Like I want to, touch on that point is that when you have people like Mangione who go out there and who kill the healthcare CEO, and people don't call that out, when people say, well, that person was kind of a really bad guy, so that's okay. When you have President Trump who gets shot in the head and people make jokes and say, well, what he said I didn't really like, and now you have Charlie Kirk, and the administrators don't actually call this out, you leave room. Now you have an entire generation of students, particularly, a lot on the right, who look to this, and even on the left, and say that I can now seek revenge, I can now do this thing, because there was no clarity, there was no, calling this thing out and saying this is objectively wrong. It's not a hard bar to fill. It's not an easy, or it's not a hard call to make.
It's a low bar. It's a low bar. Before you go, Preston, I did want to do this. I think we can pull this up right now. I asked this question just a few moments ago of my previous guest, Charlie Kirk, a friend of mine, and co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. It's a question I've gotten a lot from people out there. And Daniel Borofsky answers the question. That is, what is the lasting impact for Charlie Kirk? How long, what's the legs on it? How long term will the effect be? And Daniel says the reason anything, including Charlie, will last is because it's built on the foundation named Jesus. I'm curious what you think about the long-term prospects of what you've seen on campus at SMU, the growth of Turning Point, how you feel about the long-term, prospects of the movement Charlie started.
Yeah, I think Charlie's death inspired a revival. And I think the Bible is actually really clear on where we should be postured moving forward. Paul says in Romans 12 to bless those who persecute you. He says, do not repay evil with evil. He says, do not seek revenge, leave room for the wrath of God. And I think there's a lot of room for that, frankly, right now in the country, Will. But moving forward, I think that young people are seeing the ideals and the principles that Charlie Kirk preached as being paramount and being of utmost importance moving forward, starting families, raising kids, rejecting this woke narrative of the left that says I'm the most important thing there is. I think that young people are actually seeing that now and seeing that that's foundational and important moving forward.
So let me say a couple of things. First of all, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Incredible. Okay. And, you might still be in college, but your first national television appearance was incredibly impressive, Preston. I mean, the things that you've had to share with us today, I think, are not only insightful, they're unique, and we would love to have you back at any time. So
yeah, I appreciate it. Well, thanks.
All right, so you're still looking at screen there, people gathering in the Rose Garden, saw Vice President J.D. Vance, some others, beginning what looks like a very large gathering there for the Presidential Medal of Freedom ceremony.
Well, let me tell you, that young man, he did do a great job, but he was losing his train of thought a lot, and Will Kane was very graceful. That was a high quality experience that we just experienced. with Will Kane. Did you see how he helped him along and he bailed him out? One of the things that you've got to realize as a speaker, when you go on one of these shows, I've been on Fox News. I've been on a lot of television networks all over the world. When you go on one of these, it's a couple little things that I noticed about this young boy. He didn't have any notes by him. He didn't have any cards. Always make sure you have something there with an outline of your talking points. So if you lose, this can happen. You can just lose your train of thought. Because when you're in an environment like that, your mind is playing tricks on you because there's so much going on. You got people in the background moving around. You got cameras moving around. You got lights coming in on you. And it's a very different experience. And so you don't want to go in there like without any kind of notes, an outline, that in case you lose your train of thought, you can at least look down at something and say, I was going to say it's very dangerous because these people can maybe not give us rooms. And nobody's talking out about, there's all these people, there's all these chapters wanting to be started, but the colleges are stopping us. And nobody's speaking out about that. That's what he was trying to say. That's what I'm assuming he was trying to say. I didn't get the full gist of it, but I think that's where he was going. But if you just would have had some notes. So if you ever get tapped on the shoulder to do one of these, first of all, be well prepared and realize that young boy, he had like 4 minutes. But that 3 or 4 minutes is going to feel like 1 second. Boom, boom, and it's gone. And you got to be razor sharp when you go in there of exactly what you're going to say, or else you'll fumble around on yourself. Okay? But he did a great job. I'm proud of him, of what he shared. And it's just a real good learning point right there. Also a great learning point from how Will handled it. You know, he did it. You could really tell. Oh, hey, he started praising them. Hey, you did a good job. You did a good job. And really what Will was saying is you messed up, but it's okay. It's okay. This is your first time. It's all right. And Will understands it is. It's a lot of pressure to be up there. And that's why some of you who follow me, some of you who've heard me say, you got to have your one word down. You got to know your message more than anybody else. Because what happens in those circumstances is that when the pressure comes, what's going to happen is what's in you is going to just naturally come out of you. That's the ideal. Like it's just so embedded in you that you just, and you say it. And if you're not like that, if you come in there and you're wishy-washy and you got 5 different things, well, maybe I'll talk about this, or maybe I'll talk about that, or maybe I'll talk about this. And what happens under pressure, it all becomes, what they used to say, all becomes salad. You start talking salad stuff. And that's where you get, people would accuse Kamala Harris of that. She just talking, and stuff didn't even make sense. And that was a lot of her. She would do the same thing. So you got to be really sharp. You got to be really crystal clear on exactly what your message is. And by the way, if you need help with that, 83kacademy.com, 83kacademy.com. We're having a new class and it's coming up. I think 1 or 2 weeks away, we start, and you can join in on this class where I teach you how to be an author, speaker, coach, consultant, an expert on a particular topic. And we help you identify what that topic's going to be. It's a phenomenal training. I really take you by the hand, teach you how I develop the whole confidence brand. So hit us up. We'll have that link posted down below where you can connect up, and my mentoring link down below. Okay, let's get back to this. Looks like they're starting late, and let's get right back into what's going on.
My next guest is a political science major at the University of North Carolina, Asheville. He decided to join both Turning Point USA and College Democrats. He was surprised by what he experienced. Joining me now, that University of North Carolina, Asheville student, Benjamin Ellis. Benjamin, thank you for being with us here today. I love that we're talking to college students today on the day that Charlie Kirk is set to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It really reflects the impact that he had. And you bring a unique perspective in that you at least were a self-described Democrat who chose to join both the College Democrats and Turning Point. Why?
I don't think the Democratic Party today is the Democratic Party that it was 20 years ago. I mean, I wasn't alive 20 years ago, but I can read. And upon joining Turning Point, all I was told about Turning Point was that they're Nazis, they're terrible, they're Christian extremists. So I was like, I want to go experience this for myself. And I did, and they were pleasant. It was a great surprise.
Tell me more about that experience inside of Turning Point. I know that you've written about this. We've showed the headline from the column that you wrote, but they engaged you in debate and dialogue, friendly exchange of ideas during the meeting and after.
They sure did. I brought up a lot of points. I had some liberal talking points. I'm a very big proponent of free healthcare. They, of course, debated me on that. They wrote on gay marriage. I don't want to see gay folks lose their rights, and they, of course, debated me on what they stand on that. No hate ever came from them. All they shared was their opinions, and then they invited me to talk after. We just hung out, and then we talked about our personal lives. They got to learn that I do sports. I got to learn to play music because we talked like people.
Yeah, imagine that. People.
Yeah.
On that note, what was the reaction among the College Democrats, which you also joined, when they found out you were a member of Turning Point?
I have been told they thought I was a plant from Turning Point. They thought that I was set there by Charlie Point to essentially ambush them and try and I guess infiltrate their group. But I went there to try and talk about democratic policies and try and maybe be with some more like-minded people. But instead I was pushed out.
Pushed out because you were also a member of Turning Point?
Yes.
What does that tell you? What did you learn from this experience? Like the reaction between the two groups towards you? You said a moment ago, by the way, that the Democrat Party today is not the Democrat Party of 20 years ago. So who do you think they are today, and what did you learn?
I don't even know what they are today. I don't know what this is. It feels like it's full of hate. It's full of intolerance, and that is not the Democratic Party that I was told existed when I grew up. It was supposed to be a party for the working man, a party for the common man. And it seems much like Alaska said, the party of myself, of them, just me. There's no longer good people.
Do you feel like it still describes you? I mean, you went into this saying that you were happy to join Turning Point, but you weren't walking away from the fact that you were a Democrat. You had these certain beliefs. You talk about how they changed over that time. I'm curious if you changed as well.
Not many of my beliefs have changed, but I have certainly seen some of the way these groups behave and have to reconsider who I am myself with, I think.
Yeah, well, you have a very unique perspective, Benjamin. I appreciate you sharing that with us today. And I'm glad, or maybe even the better word is I'm proud. I'm proud of the experience that you had there among the Turning Point chapter at University of North Carolina, Asheville. We can only hope that same type of mindset or behavior among the people that share your same, as you mentioned, like-minded ideas. So thank you for sharing that, Benjamin.
Yeah, so I'm going to encourage more Democrats to come to the Turning Point Club. We'd be happy to have you, and maybe we can change some of their minds and some of the conservative ideas.
That's the idea of a debate, right? Or you win and lose and change your own mind as well as you continue to get exposed to new ideas. So, great to see you. Thank you, Benjamin. All right, we're still waiting the ceremony to honor Charlie Kirk to begin. And while we do that, let's bring in former Turning Point USA Ambassador Grace Riley. Grace, good to have you on the show. If I might, since you're a Turning Point Ambassador, I think I'm going to start, if you wouldn't mind, and I think they can do this in the studio, I'm gonna start with a question from the viewer, okay? And I'm gonna put the question to you, Grace. I think you're a good person to answer this question. And the question comes from Brave Girl. She asks, can you ask your guest, do you believe that Charlie sees all the good he has created now from heaven? So I'll put that question to you, Grace.
Yeah, no, well, wonderful question and thing to think about. Of course, we hope so and believe that he's looking down on us and all of the good that's come from such evil. And of course, Charlie's biggest legacy is his faith, and that's what really people seem to be taking away from this, and rightly so. Charlie's faith and him standing on virtue, and part of the reason that's important is because Charlie's not only stood for different political positions, which are important, but he's derived any of those stances from his faith, and through that and from that has taught us all what's really important in life: faith, family, and I hope that that's something that everyone takes away from this. I mean, such terrible evil, good, glory to Jesus has come through this.
You know, I'd love to answer this. I'm going to answer my own question as well, but I want to hear your answer first. You know, there have been a lot of conservative commentators. You and I are both one of them. Each of us. There have been a lot of pastors and religious speakers throughout time who have been open about their faith. There have been a lot of people who like to debate and step into the arena and have the back and forth with people that disagree. I'm curious what you think, though, is which of these aspects, or what was it that made it so that Charlie connected to so many people in ways that others did not?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question. Of course, Charlie was mainly going to college campuses, which are supposed to be this marketplace of ideas. But at the same time, the college campuses are godless. Obviously, Christianity, faith, and those sorts of things are not something that's discussed on college campuses, and it's a place where a lot of students are lost and looking for meaning. So when Charlie decided to go and try to reinstate this marketplace of ideas sort of philosophy by having conversations, he did that by starting with truth. He wanted to actually reach the souls of the people he was talking to. He cared about the people that he was talking to, the students on these campuses. And that was his main goal. It was actually to have an impact on their lives, to help their lives be better, to help them realize the truth and then be able to go forward with that. So the important thing is Charlie was really trying to connect with these people and thus impacted the country as a whole. He was interested in individuals, but also in our country and its values as a whole, which of course led him to alter the course of history, our country, and change the lives of so many people, impacting them to think freely, to consider Christian conservative values, even if they haven't heard them before. And I think that what we've seen in the aftermath of this terrible thing, and just in the amplification of Charlie's voice since, in what we've seen from Charlie Kirk, has just been a reflection of the gospel and of faith and of this mystery of having hope in such a hard time.
All right, Grace Riley, former Turning Point USA ambassador. I do appreciate you spending some time with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we're still waiting for that ceremony honoring Charlie Kirk to begin at the White House. And now to answer my own question, if I might, I think that what stood out about Charlie, what made him different, was his boldness, a unique brand of boldness. You know, in a time and an age when so many people were made to hide who they are or what they think or what they believe in, he was bold in his faith and bold in his ideas. He was brave, and he put it out front and stood strong in what he believed. But he also did it with a unique brand, with a smile and a willingness to engage, but remain happy. To remain happy while being bold is a unique combination of things. To never give ground, but also to not offend at the same time is a unique combination of abilities that I think when I meet college students, they say, you know, it made me stronger, made me feel stronger in publicly professing, for example, my faith. Let's talk about this a little more when we wait for that ceremony to begin with Outkick.com host Riley Gaines. Riley, it's good to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us. Tell me what you think this day means, Riley. This is a big honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's certainly one that President Trump said almost immediately that he wanted to award to Charlie Kirk. Here we are 30 days later, and Charlie Kirk will receive that on his behalf.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I think it's powerful. Obviously, this is on Charlie's, what would be his 32nd birthday, his first heavenly birthday. That in and of itself is beautiful. But I want to take a minute to speak to President Trump. I mean, he was just in the Middle East. I mean, merely a few hours ago, he made it back in time to be here. That's exactly, what Erica asked for. She asked for this to be done on his 32nd birthday. President Trump made that happen. You just have to imagine that Charlie is watching what has happened. I think, again, especially the past weeks, the past few days with what has gone on in the Middle East, President Trump has delivered another campaign promise in helping with this ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel. You have to just imagine that he is watching down from heaven and smiling, beaming ear to ear, again, with what the administration is doing, but what we're seeing culturally, the shift that we have seen, the revival that we have seen. Well, I have enjoyed so much listening to your program the past 40 minutes at this point, and listening to young college students. That was Charlie Kirk's mission. That was his legacy, to get out and to mobilize the youth. And you've done a great job in highlighting that with your program today.
Thank you so much, Riley. President Trump is walking out. He just walked out with Erica Kirk, and he's taking to the podium. Let's listen in.
This is the, please be seated. This is the first time we've been at the new and improved Rose Garden, and people are loving it. They're loving it like they've not loved a lot of things. We have the Presidential Walk of Fame, which you just saw, and I just opened. We wanted to get it open for this occasion. We were hoping we were able to get outside, and the weather allowed us to. It was supposed to be a terrible rainy day. I was telling Eric, and God was watching, and he didn't want that for Charlie. He just didn't want that. So it was really beautiful. It couldn't be more beautiful. Today we're here to honor and remember a fearless warrior for liberty, beloved leader who galvanized the next generation like nobody I've ever seen before, and an American patriot of the deepest conviction, the finest quality and the highest caliber, the late, great Charlie Kirk. Five weeks ago, our nation was robbed of this extraordinary champion. He was a champion in every way. I got to know him so well. He didn't like losing, and he was able to fight people that were enemies, and he didn't necessarily love those enemies so much. I heard he loved his enemies, and I said, wait a minute, is that the same Charlie that I know? I'm not sure, but I didn't want to get into it. But it was a horrible, heinous, demonic act of murder. He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved his country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk, our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you. As you know, only hours ago, I returned from a very historic trip to secure peace in the Middle East. People said that couldn't be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. When I reached back halfway around the globe, I was going to call Erica and say, Erica, could you maybe move it to Friday? And I didn't have the courage to call. But you know why I didn't go? Because I heard today was Charlie's birthday. And I said, that was a definite. And I said, we'll have to forget about some of those very big, very rich countries that expected me to be there. And I can tell you, based on the length of that flight, I wouldn't want to go back tomorrow. But I would not have missed this moment for anything in the world. Nothing. And it's a very important time for our country, and our country is doing so well. It's never done better. We are a country with almost now $18 trillion of investment coming in. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. Previous administration had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have more than 18, or it will be much more than 20 by the time the more than $20 trillion. There's never been a country in the world that had anything like that. What's happened to a country is incredible in a short period of time. Charlie was a big person for, sir, can we close up those borders, please, a little bit? You know, really, they can get there. I said, Charlie, I haven't gotten there yet. But, you know, it came out the last 4 months. Literally nobody was allowed into our country. And the only people that were allowed in were people that came in legally. The borders are absolutely stone cold closed. And they reported 0, 0, 0, and 0. So that's pretty good. But he was a big believer. He wanted people in the country more than I did, frankly. He wanted them to come in legally. And he got his wish. October 14th is Charlie's birthday, and he should have been turning 32 years old that day. When I first met him, he was like 22. And I said, boy, he's awfully young, but I thought he was older than that. You know, he looked a little bit older than his age. That's okay. You know, that's not good when you're old, but when you're young, it's good. He had the best of all things, but he was special. But instead, Charlie is attaining a far more important milestone. We're entering his name forever into the eternal roster of true American heroes. He's a true American hero, an amazing person, way, way beyond his years. And I'm honored to be joined by a woman who has endured unspeakable hardship with unbelievable strength, and that's Charlie's widow, Erica. And I just want to thank you, Erica. I love you so much. I was with him. Oh, please. Thank you, darling. Thank you. I was with him before I met Erica, and he told me he was going to get married. He said, you won't believe how beautiful she is. I said, well, then now that I knew he was right. But then he also said, and you know what? She's like the smartest person I know. See, they do go together on occasion. Not often. But on occasion they go together. But he was in love with you. He was deeply in love with you. It's great. Erica, your love and courage have been an inspiration to all of us, and we will always be here for you, and we're always going to be here for your gorgeous, beautiful children. And we'll never forget what your family has sacrificed for our country. Man loved our country. When things were going badly for our country, he was so, as you know, angry. He would get angry because he said it doesn't have to be that way. We're also pleased to be joined by an incredible group of Charlie's friends, very powerful friends, actually. And some not so powerful, and they were actually better people, okay? And all the less powerful ones, I have to tell you, that all of you power guys down there, the best ones in the group are the ones that are less successful, but that happens too. No, they're all great, and they're here. And let's start with Erica's father. Where is Erica's father? Where are you? Where are you, Dad? Oh, look at him, wow. I want to get a hat like that too, I like that. How are you? Nice to see you again. Thanks as well to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's been fantastic. J.D., thank you very much. Did a great job. Did a great job on Sunday with George Slobodanopoulos. I think put him away pretty good. Second lady, who's a phenomenal woman, Usha Vance. Thank you very much, Usha. Thank you very much. Great woman. President of Argentina. He wanted to be here. That's Argentina's a serious flight, right? And he's become a superstar, and he's doing amazing things. It's he's a MAGA person, but it's make Argentina great again. That's what he does, right? And I want you to stand, please, Javier Milei. Doing a great job. Thank you very much. Many members of my cabinet are here, just about all of them are here. I won't go into every single one of them, but I'll announce a few of the people that have really turned this country around and helped me. Incredible people. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, where is Mike? Mike, what a job you're doing, Mike. What a job you're doing. And I watched you this morning when you were in there trying to say, look, just let the country open and everything will be fine. We're dealing with some radical left lunatics. And I just wish Charlie was here to fight us. I think the fight would have been over already. He would have had a march on the Capitol by people whose average age is about 21, because there's nobody that had that relationship with young people, right, Mike? So thank you, Mike, for being here. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Steve, thank you very much. A brave guy and a friend. House Majority Whip, another terrific man, Tom Emmer. Thank you, Tom. Senate Majority Whip, John Barrasso. John, thank you very much. And you have all these senators, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm not going to read all their names. I'll be reading all day. We'll be talking about Charlie in about 45 minutes from now. We can't do that. So all of the senators, there's so many of you. Thank you very much. I do want to thank Senator Thune for doing a terrific job. He's really been leading properly. Do you agree, Mike? The team, the two of these guys have been fantastic. So to Senator Thune, I want to thank you very much. Incredible job. I watched him this morning, and he was out there pounding them this morning on television too. And John Barrasso, thank you for the work you've done, and congratulations on your success. But I want to thank you all and all of the Congress people that are here. And I see we have our Attorney General here, and you are doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much, man. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have everybody. Wow, that's incredible. Okay, I'm not going to do any more. I'm going to be here too long, but I just want to thank you. You have given him such support, but he always gave you such support. That's why you're here. And very unusual. Charles James Kirk was a visionary and one of the greatest figures of his generation. He was truly an amazing figure. And growing leaps and bounds, he knew that the fight to preserve our heritage is waged not only on the battlefield and in the halls of power, of which we have tremendous power here, including the head of a place called War. We call it now War. We had defense. We had our Secretary of Defense. Now we have a Secretary of War. And somehow I think it's more emblematic, and hopefully we'll never have to use war. But the fact that we're ready is very good. Peace through strength is very important, but also in the hearts of our nation's youth. That's where Charlie rode strongest. At age 18, that insight inspired Charlie to found the organization that ultimately touched the lives of millions and millions of people, and so many young people that nobody's ever seen anything like it, frankly. Turning Point USA, it's amazing, and it's actually bigger now. It's become bigger in the last few weeks than Charlie ever thought. I think his end vision in many years from now would have been just a fraction of what it turned out to be in a couple of weeks, right? It's amazing. With hard work and joyful spirit and endless enthusiasm and determination. And he did have great enthusiasm. You know, they say you need enthusiasm to be successful. He had great enthusiasm. Charlie grew Turning Point into the largest conservative youth organization in the entire country. He forged a personal bond with countless young conservatives. He fought for free speech, religious liberty, strong borders, and a very strong and proud America. In everything he did, he put America first. He really put America first. And ultimately, Charlie became more than a leader of an important organization. He became the leader of historic movements all over the country. There were movements, individual movements, one movement, but it was historic. Everything he did was historic, and a true evangelist for the cause of freedom and the word of Almighty God. God was very important to Charlie. He would say, you know, if you don't have religion, you're not going to have a strong country. It's true. He was so wise beyond his years. You know, I talk to him sometimes and say, this guy is like a young guy. He was really a wise man. From the time Charlie worked on my presidential campaign in 2016, he was there right from the beginning. He liked me. I don't know. I have no idea why. What the hell was he thinking? He said, you're going to win, sir. I said, you know, I'm running against 17 senators and a lot of tough people and governors, we have all these people. And he said, no, you're going to win, sir. He said, not going to be close. And he made it happen. He helped make it happen. I'll tell you that. Without him, who knows what would be. Maybe you'd have Kamala standing here today. That would not be good. I will tell you, Javier, you don't know who Kamala is. Promise, it would not be good. You agree with that, Howard? He also mobilized countless citizens to go vote. It's called Go Vote. Very simple. And with his help in 2024, we won more young people than any Republican by far in the history of our country. And we won the popular vote. We won the swing states, all 7 of them. Remember, they said, oh, well, if Trump could win 4, that would be nice. I win 7 by a lot, by a landslide. But the popular vote was massive. And we won the Electoral College. And remember, they said, well, it's going to be very hard. I'd say 270, but we got 312 to 226. And then we won something called districts and councils and different things. But in one case, we won 2,750 to 525. That's the one where you see the map is almost entirely red, except they have a little blue line on one side and a little blue line, meaning New York and a little bit Los Angeles. I have a feeling that if the vote were 100%, we would have won that too. You want to know the truth. But he knew, and he knew very well, and he also understood honesty, and he was always concerned with honesty. So the only way we can lose is if the cheating gets so bad, and that's where we came up with a little phrase, too big to rig. We said, go out and vote. Just go out and vote. And we had that. Remember, we used to say that all the time because people would say, oh, they're going to win. We don't have to vote. Let's go to a movie. We'll come home and watch later. And he wasn't about that. So we come up to, really together, we came up with that phrase, we're going to make it too big. I never made a speech where I didn't say at the end, now look, the polls are showing good. Don't believe the polls. He said, we're going to make it, Susie, right? Too big to rig. So if you think we're going to win by a lot, doesn't matter. Pretend we're losing. You got to go out and vote. They voted. And at 9:02, the whole thing was over, right? 9:02. Remember they said, oh, this could go a few days. Well, a few minutes. 9:02. And he knew that. And I felt it, but he knew it. He knew it. I think he knew it more than anybody. But Charlie never missed an opportunity to remind us of the Judeo-Christian principles of our nation's founding or to share his deep Christian faith. In his final moments, Charlie testified to the greatness of America and to the glory of our Savior, with whom he now rests in heaven. And he's going to make heaven. I said, I'm not sure I can make it, but he's going to make it. He's there. He's looking down on us right now. So incredible. Look at this, how this turned out. This was supposed to be so dark and cloudy. Not dark and cloudy, is it? And look at that, how beautiful that is. There's no artist that can capture it as beautiful as it is today. Wow. It's amazing. As I said, on the day that he was assassinated, Charlie Kirk was a martyr for truth and for freedom. And from Socrates to think, and to St. Peter, from Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King, those who change history the most, and he really did, have always risked their lives for causes they were put on earth to defend. He was put on earth to do exactly what he was doing. He didn't want to waste time. He would have been a top student at any college in the country. I know the college as well. He's smarter than the guys there. He was so smart. But he almost, I guess, didn't have the time because he knew what he wanted to do. It wasn't like, gee, I want to sit in the classroom for 4 years listening to people teach me liberal principles, because they were never going to teach him that anyway. But he didn't have the time. He really didn't have the time. But every time the enemies of goodness and virtue tried to silence the voice of righteous and noble leaders like Charlie, they failed. They seem to fail. Ultimately, they look like they're doing well, and then they end up failing, because the truth has been unrelenting over the years, over history. And people like Charlie, it's just they've got a power that others don't have, and very few people will ever have. So today, like those martyrs before him, Charlie's voice, his message, and his legacy are stronger and greater than ever before. They are greater than ever before. Look, this is a horrible event, but it brought out the greatness of Charlie. Nothing could have ever supplanted this. It's incredible the way people are talking about him, and with great love. I mean, I read so many stories about some of the enemies, but I watch the enemies, and it's hard for them to speak badly about him because they just don't. And then you do have people in the days since Charlie's killing, we've seen exactly why our country so dearly needed his example. We've watched legions of far-left radicals resort to desperate acts of violence and terror because they know that their ideas and arguments are persuading no one. They know that they're failing. They have the devil's ideology, and they're failing, and they know it. They feel it, and they become violent. They seem to become very violent on the left. They've rammed vehicles into federal law enforcement, fired sniper rifles at ICE agents, and me, you know. But I made a turn at a good time. I turned to the right. Charlie couldn't believe it, actually. He said, how the hell did you make that turn? I said, I don't know. But fired rifles, threatened the lives of our Supreme Court justices, our great justices. They have to be protected. We just issued a lot of money, $60 million, to protect the Supreme Court justices. Very important. We can't let anything happen. In places of worship, we're protecting our people. We've seen that a candidate for Attorney General in Virginia boasted that he would want to see the Republican legislature, a legislator in Virginia shot in the head and to see his children murdered. He actually said this. And now he continues to run for office, and most people continue to back him, but he said he wants his man shot. He said shot in the head and to see his children murdered. And they keep running. Pretty amazing, right? That's a bad one. Let's see how that turns out, but that's a really bad one. Nobody's heard that one before. Especially in the wake of Charlie's assassination, our country must have absolutely no tolerance for this radical left violence, extremism, and terror. We're done with the angry mobs, and we're not going to let our cities be unsafe. We're going to make sure our cities are safe. We're going to have Chicago, where they had 4,000 people murdered over a very short period of time. 4,000 people. And then we have a governor stand up and say, oh, things are going swimmingly. No, they're not. We're going to make Chicago safe, just like we're going to make. Look what we did in D.C. It's so nice that we started here, because this was one of the most violent places in the United States. It would be dangerous to be right out here. But you couldn't go to a restaurant. The restaurants were all dying. The whole place was dying. You'd have these gorgeous, look at the Washington Monument over there. You'd have these gorgeous buildings and monuments and structures. And people were afraid to leave their apartment. They were afraid to go to work. They'd get into an Uber and they'd feel safe, and then the Uber would be attacked. They thought they made it to safety, and then the Uber was attacked on the trip in. But we've done a great job, and now it's considered a totally safe city. We haven't had problems. It took us 12 days to make it good. We took out, Pam, 1,700 hard criminals, career criminals in many cases, but these are hardened criminals. Many of them came in through the Biden open borders. We brought them back to the countries. And a couple were so violent that we put them in jail. We don't want to take a chance that they could get back in, because no matter how good we do, somebody can sneak in. They were so violent and so bad. One arrested 28 times. Every time he left prison, he'd get into a violent incident. 28 times. And we put him away for a long time. But we're done with the angry mobs. We're done with it. This is such an unbelievable place right now. You take a look where you can walk down the middle of the street with your wife or your husband. Your children can walk. They can walk alone. It doesn't matter. They can walk anywhere in Washington, and they're safe now. If this were a year ago, they'd have a serious chance of being badly hurt, even killed. They come in from Indiana, they come in from Iowa, they come from Florida to see the nation's capital, and somebody would have to call the parents, I'm sorry, but your son or your daughter's been killed. Not anymore. You hear those sirens going off? That's good. That's a good sound. That means they either got the bad guy or they're going to stop the bad guy. You didn't hear that sound because nobody wanted to do anything. Nobody listened to the beauty of that sound. Seriously. And that's the real deal sirens. They're not politically correct sirens. You hear, they're about 3 miles away. That's great. What a beautiful sound. They're stopping crime. That's what they're doing. So we're done with the voices of fools, and death threats, and we're going to make our cities safe. And I thought it was Charlie's, one of his biggest dreams was that he couldn't believe it. Chicago's going to be a great city again. We've already, we sent people in there 6 months ago. This governor said, well, crime is down. Yeah, that's because we had the FBI in there for 6 months, just preparing it for the bigger surge. And they've done a great job, the CARES and the FBI. They've done a great job, and they love doing it, They love being able to do it. They were restricted from doing it. They couldn't do anything. And now they're totally unrestricted. All they have to do is stop crime. And they're doing it. By the way, Memphis, as you know, you heard they went in about a week ago. One of the most dangerous places in the country. It's really in the world. It's not just a country. They have very few cities that would compare to some of these cities. You go to Afghanistan, you say, oh, that's unsafe. Well, the crime numbers are much better than the crime numbers in places that we have. So Memphis, I understand, is doing unbelievably in 1 week. It's like a different place. And this took 12 days, and then after that, we just perfected it. But after 12 days, we had good safety here. After 1 month, it's like, it's really amazing. And by the way, restaurants are booming. Restaurants are opening up. The big problem we have, you can't get into a restaurant in DC anymore. So they're opening up. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's called safety. It's called law enforcement and letting them do their job. And that's why I said last month that I had directed the Attorney General and the Department of Homeland Security to confront the very real threat of left-wing terrorism in our country. It's a real threat. And not when you confront it, it's not, because they're not brave people. In fact, they're cowards. When you confront them, they immediately fold. You have to see them fold. You have to see them crying. They fold. But it includes dismantling the networks that fund them and finance them, and we're finding out who those networks are. We already know quite a few of them. When you see these violent incidents, and then you see people holding this gorgeous sign with beautiful wood, beautiful cardboard, wood, everything's perfect paint job, and they're all the same. There are thousands of them. You know that they weren't made in the basement out of love. They were made by anarchists. And in some cases, wealthy. I'll probably find some of my nice friends that are up there being so nice to me, especially lately. They've been very nice. But it surprises you who they may be. And you almost wonder why would they do it? But they're hurting our country, and we're really taking it back one by one. If we didn't go into Los Angeles early on in the administration, the commissioner, the chief of police, Los Angeles said, if they didn't go in, we would have lost our city. Now, they already lost 25,000 houses to fire because they wouldn't let the water come in from the Pacific Northwest, which they should have done. I said, you better do it. They didn't do it, and they had 25,000 homes where they had no water in the sprinklers, they had no water in the fire hydrants. It would have been a different kind of thing if they did what they were supposed to do. We had to break in. We broke in and had the water come down. They said from the environment, great, they lost 25,000 houses. It's incredible. But the commissioner said without the federal government and President Trump's intervention, we would have lost the entire city. And we have the Olympics going there soon. I got the Olympics. We have the Olympics, we have the World Cup. And we have, most importantly, we have the 250th anniversary of our country. That's going to be most important. And all of these things are happening. We're going to have safe cities. We're going to have very, very safe cities. So 1 month after Charlie's death, we still feel the terrible shock and the pain of his loss, like just about nobody I can think of. Charlie Kirk was one of a kind. He was unstoppable. And he really was, boy, when he had an idea in his head, he would call me, sir, please, you haven't done it yet. I said, Charlie, relax, just relax. He didn't relax, he called me the next day again, got it done. But he was like indomitable and always will be, he's really irreplaceable. Nobody can replace him. But they're going to do great, but you can't replace that kind of person and that kind of talent, frankly. The word talent is an important word, but that kind of talent. So we hold his memory in our hearts forever. Every single day of this administration, we will continue to carry out the mission for which he lived. And he really did. He lived for this country. He lived for his wife and his family, but he lived for this country too. In Charlie's honor, we will continue like we have been to fight, and to win. We're going to win so much. So, the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a big deal. You have the Congressional Medal of Honor, military, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is civilian. And the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a really big deal. Very few people get it. Very few people, frankly, qualify. It's a decision of the president, but it's a qualification that's a very hard one to get. And I would like to ask, if I might, the military aide to read Charles James Kirk's citation for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Charles James Kirk. Accepting on behalf of Charlie is his wife, Mrs. Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of the most influential American political figures of his generation. At just 18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA and grew it into the largest conservative youth organization in the nation. For over a decade, he tirelessly traveled the country leading a movement to restore respect for our founding principles, reawaken our national identity, and inspire a renewed spirit of religious devotion. He was one of the great debaters and communicators of his time. Despite receiving repeated threats, he remained undeterred and modeled courage, logic, humor, and grace to the next generation. On September 10th, 2025, at age 31, Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students. The United States honors him as a martyr for truth and freedom.
For honoring my husband in such a profound and meaningful way, and thank you for making this event a priority amid the peace process in the Middle East. Thank you. Very grateful. Charlie always admired your commitment to freedom, and that's something that both of you shared. So thank you. Your support of our family and the work that Charlie devoted his life to will be something I cherish forever, so thank you. To our gracious First Lady in her office for making this event possible, thank you as well. It's beautiful. To Vice President and co-lovely Lucia, your friendship has been an unbelievable encouragement. And to all our friends and family that are here watching from all around the world. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for praying for us and for believing in what Charlie believed in. And to our Turning Point USA staff and the Charlie Kirk Show staff, we love you more than you could ever know. And to the Turning Point USA chapters that are watching all across America right now, you are the heartbeat of this future and of this movement. Everything that Charlie built, you guys are the legacy holders of that. You are living proof that his mission did not die with him. It was through you. And Charlie always said the next generation will decide whether freedom endures. And because of you, I know that freedom will endure. And today we're gathered not only to celebrate Charlie's birthday, but to honor a truth that he gave his entire life to defend, and that's freedom. The very existence of the Presidential Medal of Freedom reminds us that the national interest of the United States has always been freedom. Our founding textbook is the preamble of our Constitution, and those words are not relics on parchment. They are a living covenant. The blessings of liberty are not man's invention, they are God's endowment. Charlie lived for those blessings, not as abstract words, but as sacred promises. He used to love to journal about this topic all the time, and with such a heart posture of gratitude. And he believed that liberty was both a right and a responsibility. And he used to say, freedom is the ability to do what is right without fear. And that's how he lived. He was free from fear. He was free from compromise, free from anything that could enslave his soul. His name, Charles, literally means free man. And that's exactly what he was. He was a free man. And from the time I met him, sitting across from him, being interviewed on politics and philosophy and theology, anything that Charlie loved, any topic he loved. And I just saw the fire in his soul, and there was this divine restlessness within him that came from knowing God placed him on this earth to protect something very, very sacred for all of us. And he never stopped fighting for people to experience freedom. He didn't. Charlie often said that without God, freedom becomes chaos. And he believed liberty could only survive when everything was true. And I remember one of his speeches.
He was one of the great debaters and
He told
communicators
the
of
audience
his
that
time.
the opposite of
Despite
liberty
receiving repeated threats,
isn't law.
he remained undeterred
He said
and
it's
held to
captivity.
courage, logic.
And that the freest people in the world are those whose hearts belong to Christ.
On September 10,
And what's so
2025,
powerful is that Charlie had the ability
Charlie Kirk was
to
assassinated.
communicate so brilliantly across all generations. And he reminded us that in a world that tells us freedom is
On September 10,
doing whatever you want to do, the real freedom
September 10,
is the power to live
2025,
freely and to do
age
what's right.
31.
In one of his journal entries, he wrote that he wanted everyone to know that you can't have liberty without
The
moral
United States honors
responsibility.
him a martyr for truth and freedom.
Freedom divorced from faith eventually just destroys itself. And what's so fascinating about all of this is looking back these past 12 years of Turning Point USA and his mission, there's almost this veil of
Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students.
because what I realized
The
is that
United
while he
States
was
honors him a martyr for
building an
truth.
organization, he was also building a movement. One that called people back to God, back to truth, and a movement that was filled with courage. And ironically, for a man who impacted millions, Charlie never desired to be the center of attention. He just wasn't. My husband was not a man of extravagance. He loved simple but deeply meaningful things. Truly. He loved his late night walks. He loved buying more books than he could ever read because he felt there was no such thing as a book budget. And he loved being able to read to our kids the same bedtime story on repeat because he knew it was their favorite. But to him, that was special. And he loved to sit in the sun on a Saturday morning with his cup of decaf coffee, and his phone was off because he was honoring the Sabbath. And for him, it was that moment to catch his breath and just be in peace, because he was unreachable at the moment. And he preferred quiet birthdays. But that never stopped me from telling him. I told him every single year, I said, baby, I have no your birthday. I said, because it's the day that God knew the world couldn't go another day without you. And so the rhythm of our usual birthday celebration for him was mint ice cream, mint chocolate chip ice cream. He only had it twice a year, on his birthday and 4th of July. And then after that, it was back to work as usual. But last year, his one birthday wish was to see the Oregon Ducks play the Ohio State. And they won. Oregon won that night. And it was by far one of the most memorable nights of his birthday experience of his life until today. And so, honestly, President Trump, I have spent 7.5 years trying to find the perfect birthday gift for Charlie. And it's so difficult. And those of you that have spouses or loved ones, you know how difficult it is sometimes to buy a gift for someone you love. Because he wasn't a materialistic man, so that also did not help. But now I can say with confidence, Mr. President, that you have given him the best birthday gift he could ever have. It's such an honor and the recognition of a life lived for defending freedom. And that's what Charlie fought for until his last breath. And it was written across his chest in those final moments on one of his simple t-shirts that always carried a message, and this one bearing a single word, freedom. That was the banner over his life, and that shirt was a declaration. The same declaration he made in every speech, every campus visit, every time he shared the gospel at a church, every sleepless night that he would spend praying for the youth of this nation and planning for the future of our country, and just impressing upon them that when we defend liberty, we defend the soul of our nation. My husband never told anyone what to say. He never did. He never told anyone what to say. He would just encourage them to think. He would encourage them to think outside of the traditional political labels. He would want them to think in a way that was anchored in wisdom and truth. But he would never tell anyone what to say. Charlie wasn't content to simply admire freedom. He wanted to multiply it. He wanted to multiply freedom. He wanted young people to taste it and to understand it and defend it. He wanted them to see that liberty isn't self-indulgence, it's self-governance under God. He wanted them to see that. And every day I'd see him getting ready for work. He'd put on his cross necklace, he'd put his ring on his finger. And the boldness in his demeanor was always fearlessness. He wasn't afraid. He was never afraid. In his daily actions, whether in office or on campus or at a church, it was always without fear. That was his creed. That is how he lived out every single day. He didn't fear being slandered. He did not. He didn't fear losing friends, I can tell you that. He didn't care. He stood for truth and stood for freedom, and he did not, everything else was just noise to him. And it's because his confidence in Christ was absolute. That's why. There was no limit to what he would have sacrificed to defend freedom for all. And if the moment had come, he probably would have run for president, but not out of ambition. He would only have done it if that was something that he believed that his country needed from a servant's heart standpoint. And Charlie lived only 31 short years. It was 32, but on this side of heaven, but he lived. He lived every single second. He filled every single day with purpose, and he fought for truth when it was unpopular. And he stood for God when it was costly. That's what we're called to do. Surprisingly enough, he did pray for his enemies, which is very hard, but he did. He did. He did. No one else, I saw him do it. No, he never did it in front of anyone else, but I can attest to that. But he also loved people when it was inconvenient. And he ran his race with endurance, and he kept the faith. And now he wears the crown of a righteous martyr. And for me and for our children, the truth really steadies our grief, because heaven gained what earth could no longer contain. A free man made fully free. To all watching, this is not a ceremony. This is a commissioning. And my message is simple. I want you to be the embodiment of this medal. I do. I want you to free yourself from fear. I want you to stand courageously in the truth. Listen for the still, small voice of God. And remember that while freedom is inherited in this country, each of us must be intentional stewards every single day. God began a mighty work through my husband, and I intend to see it through. And the torch is in our hands now. It's in mine, it's in yours, it's in all of yours, it's in all the students with Turning Point USA. And before I close, I'll share with you that I asked our daughter what she would like to say to Daddy for his birthday. She said, "Happy birthday, Daddy. I want to give you a stuffed animal. I want you to eat a cupcake with ice cream. And I want you to go have a birthday surprise. I love you." That's what she said. And while our son is precious, he can't yet speak. In classic Kirk family fashion, his actions spoke louder than his words. And his gift to you, Charlie, and myself for that matter, was deciding to become the man of the house and be fully potty trained at 16 months. Charlie, baby, I know that you're celebrating in heaven today, but gosh, I miss you. We miss you. And we love you, and we promise we'll make you proud. And Charlie's life was proof that freedom is not a theory, it's a testimony. He showed us that liberty begins not in the halls of power, but in the man of a heart surrendered to God. And so today, as we honor Charlie with this incredible Presidential Medal of Freedom on his birthday, I stand here with tears and this humbled heart and spirit, because his story reminds us all that to live free is the greatest gift, but to die free is the greatest victory. Happy birthday, my child. Happy Freedom Day.
President of the United States and the widow of Charlie Kirk walking off to Amazing Grace on the violin. Welcome to the Five. Just moments ago, you saw President Trump awarding the late Charlie Kirk with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He said Charlie's name is now in the eternal roster of true American heroes. It's the highest civilian honor, and Erica Kirk accepting it on behalf of her late husband. Today would have been Charlie Kirk's 32nd birthday. And Erica said this would have been the best birthday gift she could have imagined in their seven and a half years together. Let's go around the table. You know, Dana, as I sat there and watched her 13 times when she became visible.
Well, pretty powerful.
When she talked about Charlie reading the same bedtime story to her daughter. You know, she told her kids.
Didn't know what was going to happen fully at the end here. But wow. That was pretty moving speech. And I just think that that's so cool. That's such a cool, definitely just such a cool moment. And the strength that it would take to get up there and speak that is just absolutely amazing. I hope you've enjoyed this time together. Hey, like, follow, share this, so other people can get to experience this. Thank you so much for joining. God bless and Godspeed.